Well, hey there, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the show. I am your host, Janine Alley, and you are listening to Becoming the CEO of Your Life Today. And today I've got a really fun episode for you. We're talking all about how to balance that buzzy summer vibe and to get quality work done despite that high energy that we're experiencing. So, if you are listening to this podcast the week that this one goes live, it actually goes live on the 4th of July. And if you're not listening to it during the summertime, you can still apply these same principles of energy and balance to whatever season of the year you're living through or whatever experiences, circumstances in your life that you're living through. So, I'm going to be explaining a lot of things with energy today in terms of Ayurvedic language. So, I'm going to be talking about doshas and energy, and I want this to be something that you can keep up with. You're going to be able to feel, I think, what I'm saying, but I am going to be using Ayurvedic terms, and I'm going to be explaining things along the way as we go. So it is summertime. This is Pitta season. Pitta is an Ayurvedic dosha, and it is alive. It is that high vibe, fun energy, and you can see how this plays out, right? In nature, things grow really fast. We've got a lot of heat here in the northern hemisphere of the world. It feels really good to be outside. It feels like there is a lot of energy swirling around, people coming and going, and even staying up late, waking up earlier because the sun is out for longer hours of the day, and feels amazing. A lot of my memories actually from my childhood revolve around the summer. This is my season of the year. I love being warm. I love being out in the sun and with my kids and all the things. I love the smell of lawn of grass after it's cut. I love walking around in bare feet. I love being out in my garden and being in the garden of my childhood, swimming in the pool. My parents had a pool as a kid. I just have a lot of amazing memories as a kid, even sleeping with my window open. All of these things I just love, love, love about summer. But we can create imbalances with this kind of energy. So, just to kind of give you a little bit of Pitta background, the elements of Pitta energy are fire and water. And so, you think that there's some adjectives that we use to kind of describe this energy. It's hot, it's bright, there's a lot of movement involved, a lot of growth. It's like I said, this kind of high vibe energy. And if we develop a Pitta imbalance, we become agitated, right? Too much hot, too much heat. We get irritable, we get angry, right? We become physically hot. Sometimes we get inflammation in our bodies. And I know for myself, when I'm in this kind of agitated, irritated space because my energy is off, it's really difficult for me to focus. And our brains kind of start to spin out. I coached 3 people today, and they were all experiencing a pitta imbalance. So they're experiencing this spin, this feeling of being kind of out of control with, uncertain futures, or this ability to, or this inability to feel like you're in control of your schedule because of that coming and going and so much movement, so many things going on, right? So we have to work on cooling that fire and finding balance with this. And you guys know I talk all the time about grounding practices. This is all about coming back to that core, your core connection, and connecting to your inner wisdom, and really thinking about, okay, what do I really need right now? What do I need to do? And being okay with that answer. I think sometimes when we're kind of in this high vibe spin and the answer is to slow down, we don't want to do that, right? We think like we don't have time for that. We don't want to make time for these kinds of things. And that, of course, just kind of exacerbates that spin with this elevated energy and feelings of not being in control. So, just from my own life, I've totally felt this. I've had kids coming and going. I've been actually pretty stationary. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for a trip, but my kids have been kind of all over the place, all over the world, literally. And it's interesting as a mom what that feels like to have kids all over the place. So coming and going, I've found it really hard to concentrate on things this week. Even doing basic things. So I have to tell you a little behind the scenes this week. I did a video the other day for some dear friends of mine, actually from some childhood friends of mine. And I was kind of panning over my body and I was showing them like I got my work shirt on and I have makeup on my face because I was on video today, but I still have my workout unders. I'm still wearing my sports bra and I have my pajama pants on the bottom. Like, I don't know what happened during the day, but that is how the day ended up. Was kind of this conglomeration of things that I was hoping would happen, like my yoga workout that I didn't actually get into stretchies for, but I was wearing my pajama pants for it. So anyway, just a lot of crazy things. And I've also noticed in my yoga practice that I've wanted to hop off my mat early. It is usually not even a problem for me to do a 60, 75-minute yoga class. And after 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, ship shape. I think we're done. That's so I want you to know I'm on to myself. And it helps me to have a longer meditation, a longer ramp. I've even started some of my yoga practices in Shavasana, which is lying on my back, just to help myself ground in that experience. So I was also noticing, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing the podcast today. I was coaching one of my clients and she even said, she's like, I'm feeling this buzzy energy. And she has a lot of things going on, just like most of you. And she said, I just want to be still. So my question to her, my question to you today is, can you be at a place of stillness with that buzzy energy? And you might be thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? So this is such a huge part of self-trust, by the way, is your ability to feel your emotions. Now, I want to just say that feeling your emotions is very, very different than trying to feel a different emotion. Okay, there is a massive difference between those. One of them, you are leaning into your experience, what it means to be you in this moment, and allowing whatever is there, versus resisting so hard the anxiety or the irritability or that buzzy emotion that's coming up, right? So we want to do the work to feel grounded. That is what is going to help you to feel your emotions. It doesn't mean that you feel peace. It means that you're able to be at peace with whatever is coming up. This is what creates peace. We don't usually think about it this way. Sometimes peace is actually our emotional state, and sometimes peace comes from not resisting. Okay, so you're never going to get into a place where you don't feel things, right? Or even have that initial default response. We get used to doing a lot of awareness work and a lot of mindset work, right? You're always going to have a default response to something. You might feel emotions that you don't want to feel. Like, for example, with my client today, one of my clients today, she was getting all these text messages, like updates about what was going on with certain clients of hers. And she was like, she wanted to fix it all. And that was like her initial response, was kind of that agitation and wanting to fix things instead of just softening into what their emotional experience was and that initial agitation, and coming at that whole thing from a place of compassion instead of judgment and irritability. So even wanting to get to a place of peace is actually a form of resistance. You're resisting your current situation. You're resisting what you're currently feeling, what actually is. So let me give you an example of how I was feeling this at one time so that you can kind of get a flavor. So I was asked by one of my coaches, somebody I was working with a couple years ago, to go live with him on Facebook. And it was a big deal. This coach of mine, this business mentor that I had at the time, had a huge following. I can't remember how many people he had, but it wasn't just like tens of thousands of people. It was like hundreds of thousands of people were on his Facebook, and he had announced it, I'm going live. And so people were waiting. People were expecting him to be on. It wasn't like he was just doing it kind of on a whim, and he wanted me to be on for part of it. And I was feeling all of the jitters. I was feeling all of this really buzzy energy, and I wasn't able to really settle in and be with that experience. And so I actually brought it to a life coaching session that I had with a different coach, not this business coach, but a different experience. And she was able to really open my eyes to what it means to be present with an emotion like that. And so at the end, I I was able to just be on the Facebook Live and feel jittery and be okay with all of it. That is really where we want to go. This is, like I said, the really interesting thing about awareness. You're good at being aware of what you're thinking and feeling. Maybe you're new to this. Maybe you've had some experience. But the mistake is that we notice the things that come up and then we judge this experience, right? And we tell ourselves things like, well, I'm reacting and I know better than this. So in my experience being on this Facebook Live, I'm like, I don't want to feel this way. But she got me to see, like, what if you were able to just allow the jitters to be there and show up and still be present with your coach? Because the problem that comes up is when we are so busy and distracted by trying to not feel our actual experience, not feel those jittery feelings or that buzziness that's going on, we end up amplifying that and making it so much worse, so much more unbearable, right? To the point that we don't show up as our best self. But if we just soften into that buzzy, jittery experience that we sometimes have, or whatever, you can insert whatever emotion is there, then that allows us to soften into life. We are able to ground ourselves in that experience. And different seasons of the year have different emotions that I know I feel more often. So for example, in periods of time where there's a lot of transition, there's a lot of that swirling vata energy, another Ayurvedic term there, that swirling air and space quality. Because of that transition, I end up again getting really distracted is kind of the emotion, also not able to focus, but for a different reason. So you want to kind of just be aware of what is going on. That's the question to really ask yourself. What is going on here? And sometimes asking yourself questions like, what am I feeling? Or why am I feeling that? And if you're noticing that there's some fear that's coming up, this is something I was coaching one of my clients on today, or some worry, you want to take those stories all the way to the end of the road. Like, what are you really worried about? And how would you solve those problems if they came up the way that you are thinking that they will down the road, right? Answer those questions. It will help you to ground. If you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling worried, if you're feeling anxious, take a moment to explore those emotions and really do the practices to feel into those things. If you're in my programs, you know how to do this, but you've got to actually sit down and do it. That's the key thing. It's not enough to just know that you need to feel. You actually have to feel it. Just a reminder if you need today. So one last thing about summer is we want to learn how to manage our own expectations of what we can realistically do. I know a lot of you have kids home for the summer. The schedule has shifted for the summertime. I used to homeschool my kids, so my kids were home with me all the time. But in summer, it was just different. We weren't doing like book work and stuff like that. We were doing different things. But you want to be realistic with what you can actually do and what you can actually get done. If you are still thinking that you're going to be able to produce work like you could while kids were in school or you were a different phase of life, that is going to end up being a really frustrating experience for you. So you want to think about, okay, how can I still enjoy my life without pushing too hard, without overdoing, so that you're creating that balance that you desire. All right, my friends, if you want to know more about this, I have an amazing 20-minute masterclass that is all about how to create that core connection that I'm talking about, how to create that alignment that you desire so that you are not spinning out in anxiety and worry and all the things that might be popping up because of that energy imbalance. All right, you guys, if you want to have access to that, just go ahead and go to JanineAlley.com/webinar, and you will be connected to the page that you just enter in your information and it's yours. So again, that link is JanineAlley.com/webinar. It is one of the best trainings I have ever created. So I want to really encourage you to go over there and check it out. You can also get to it just off of my website, my homepage, and you'll find it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. All right, you guys, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. We'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.